This is Omar Nashashibi in Washington, D.C., bringing you an update of an increased focus on transshipment of goods. Officials here in Washington on both the policymaking and trade enforcement side of government are increasingly looking at transshipment of goods through third countries as a form of tariff evasion. In the past few months, we are seeing additional scrutiny of these goods entering the U.S. from countries not known as major producers of those imports or from countries seeing a spike themselves in imports from China or other countries. Products that are not substantially transformed in a third-party country will typically retain their original country of origin designation, and in the case of China, the tariff rate that comes with those imports. Importers are often mistaken to think that once a product is transshipped to a different source, it takes on the origin of that new host country. However, the product must first undergo substantial transformation in that new nation. The U.S. Department of Commerce states that, quote, substantial transformation means that the good underwent a fundamental change, normally as a result of processing or manufacturing in the country claiming origin, in form, appearance, nature, or character, which adds to its value an amount or percentage that is significant in comparison to the value which the good when exported from the country in which it was first made. There are variations of this definition for countries with which the U.S. maintains a free trade agreement, but the core definition for the country of origin and those rules of origin status really largely remain the same. This is where an importer can run afoul of U.S. trade laws, as if the product does not meet the country of origin definition, then the product is considered potentially transshipped, a form of tariff evasion. U.S. Customs and Border Protection, or CBP, finalized an interim final rule that took effect on April 17, 2024, that included transshipment in its definition of tariff evasion, which includes efforts to not pay the Section 232 or 301 tariffs or anti-dumping and countervailing duties imposed on those products imported in the U.S. On April 29, CBP initiated an investigation into a U.S. importer of xanthan gum, saying that, quote, CBP found reasonable suspicion, quote, that the company imported the product by transshipping Chinese origin xanthan gum through Mexico. As it imposed interim measures, the agency cited that the complaint states that the product is only produced in 4 countries, of which Mexico is not one, but China is. Looking at production data, historical exports using HTS codes, and technological and environmental capabilities and capacity are among the factors CBP and Customs and the U.S. government will increasingly examine as they look to identify incidents of transshipment. Particularly goods entering the U.S. through Mexico are reportedly receiving additional attention if there are recent spikes in imports of that product, or there is not a history of growing or manufacturing the product in that or another country, shipping to the United States and bearing that nation as the country of origin. The Biden administration indicated that they were in office, to be in office during the mandatory 6-year review in 2026 for the U.S. Mexico-Canada Free Trade Agreement, USMCA, then addressing transshipment through Mexico is likely going to be a priority. The Office of the U.S. Trade Representative is beginning the review process of the USMCA that will continue with hearings on automotive parts this fall and ultimately culminate in a report to Congress on the agreement, which entered into force in 2020. In a speech delivered on May 16, 2024, White House National Economic Advisor Lael Brainerd said, quote, in negotiating USMCA, the previous administration did not adequately address the potential transshipment of Chinese exports entering the U.S. market via Mexico, end quote. She added that, quote, we look forward to working with Mexico to address concerns that some Chinese steel exports appear to be flowing through Mexico and some Chinese auto companies may be considering export vehicles and auto parts via Mexico, end quote. As Advisor Brainerd said, the USMCA review in 2026 is an opportunity for the U.S. to further discuss potential risk of transshipment, not just through Mexico in the case of USMCA, but also use that as a model as they look at other nations as well. In addition, transnational subsidies is another area drawing additional attention from trade enforcement policymakers here in Washington, D.C. The U.S. Commerce Department released a rule effective April 24, 2024, that amends regulation to clarify that transnational subsidies are countervailable under U.S. trade laws, making that import subject to a duty rate. The rule refers to these as, quote, subsidies provided by a government or public entity in one country that benefit producers or exporters in another country. On May 15, 2024, the department initiated an anti-dumping and countervailing duty case related to solar cells coming from Cambodia, Malaysia, Thailand, and Vietnam. The investigation, that petition for those investigations, alleges that, quote, the governments of all 4 countries subsidize their own solar industries and facilitate and accept substantial cross-border subsidies to their solar industries from the government of the People's Republic of China, end quote. These are areas of transnational subsidies and areas of transshipment will only continue to receive additional attention and scrutiny here in Washington. Importers should always consult with a customs broker or other expert to ensure the proper documentation and verification for country of origin and ensure that transnational shipments and transnational subsidies are not going to be an area of concern or a problem down the line. Especially as we move closer to the review of the USMCA and shipments from Mexico, experts are urging additional due diligence. This has been an update on trade policy and trends from Washington, D.C. As always, feel free to reach out to CLA for more information.